Well, as I think everybody here today knows, yesterday I took a bold step for Alaska's future. It was time that Alaska change its approach a bit, that we level the playing field a bit, and that we learn a bit from Alaska's history. I remember well when Governor Bill Egan called a special session for the purpose of the state of Alaska building the Trans-Alaska Oil Pipeline. His plan, the state would own the entire thing. And it was a contentious special session. Did not end up with the state of Alaska building the Trans-Alaska Oil Pipeline, but we ended up with the Trans-Alaska Oil Pipeline. That took a bold move. It was a very bold move. Governor Hickel, a bold move. He threatened the producers on the North Slope, you drill or we will. They drilled, we have Prudhoe Bay today. So this is really, I'm a big believer that if you don't know your history, you're destined to repeat it. And that's the problem we've had with the gas line for the past several decades. And we are destined to repeat it unless we take a bold move and do what's best for Alaska. This is not about trying to tax somebody into doing a project. This is not about anything about anti-oil. This is about pro-Alaska. And that's been my whole stance in my entire career, has been what's best for Alaska. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's who I represent. That's certainly who I represent today. So I'm very aggressive about representing Alaska, about what's best for Alaska. So for me, it's about having us controlling our own destiny. And that's really what we need to do. We are an owner state, and we're an owner state because the federal government made us an owner state. When we became a state, the provision of the Statehood Compact says that we own the resources in the ground. We cannot sell the resources in the ground by law. If we did that, they would revert back to the federal government. We can only live off the resources in the ground. And when they come out, the model we have adopted is that we get a share of when they're produced. That's assuming they're produced. When gas is not produced, we receive nothing from that. We need the gas produced. So from day one in office, my first meeting with one of the producers with Exxon, I said, I need project certainty. I've got to have project certainty. And the way to have project certainty, I know they ask for fiscal certainty. I understand their fiscal certainty requests. I have to have project certainty, completion certainty, where they actually would have a project. My proposal was that in the negotiations with the AK LNG, that there would be a provision whereby if any participant in AK LNG withdrew, they could not block the project from continuing on. I just don't think that's unreasonable. I just really don't. It's not saying they have to stay in the project, but in stepping out, they cannot block us from continuing on. And I continued to ask for that from my very first meeting in December with Exxon and with the team, and I never received that. That never got negotiated. That never got completed. That's a must-have for Alaska. And if we can't stand up and say we must have project certainty that this will be completed, then we'll never have a project, because we'll continue to be rolled down the road as we have for the past many decades, and sort of stuck in what I call gas line negotiation hall, and we never actually take the field. So and I will ask the legislature to stand with me once they see the details of the legislation that we're talking about. Really, we're talking about is making sure that no one can block us from doing a project. That they can't say we decided to do a project elsewhere, which some are working on. Exxon has talked about recently in a press conference. They talked about the 9 LNG projects, and that's fine. That's they're a great company. They do great work around the world. But we don't have 9 projects in Alaska. We have one. It's the only project that we have. We need to make sure this one gets to market. So that's what this is about. This isn't about trying to penalize anybody, trying to put a gun to anybody's head. We have a gun to our own head on our fiscal situation. It's time to monetize our resources. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. That's what we are going to do to get out of the financial situation we're in right now. Is we're going to make sure our resources develop. If we have to develop them ourselves, so be it. That's great. I don't have any problem with that. But, I have asked for a financial package, a project package to take to the legislature in the special session, and I've not received that. I mean, the only pieces that have really been resolved are issues where we're giving something up. On the PILT, we've given up about $1 billion. That got resolved, but where's the gas balancing agreement? Where's the dispute resolution agreement? Where's the milestone agreement? There's about a dozen other pieces that are necessary to put a package together. Where's the fiscal package? Some have asked for fiscal certainty on oil. We have, as Alaskans, we have found that unacceptable to give fiscal certainty on the oil for a gas line. So it's disappointing that we're not further along. I can only control what we do. The gas balancing agreement, those should have been done. They should have been years ago, quite honestly. They've been talking about a gas line for a long time. Why wasn't that resolved years ago? So why has that still remained unresolved? So what I'm saying is Alaska has got to have a gas line project. And we've got to be in a situation that we cannot be blocked by somebody else, because that's what we've done historically. We're right back to the Stranded Gas Development Act, quite honestly. And that was one that the Alaskan gave up so much, or the administration gave up so much. It was sorely rejected by the administration, didn't get a hearing, and the voters were not happy with it as well. So we're right back in that same process. So. It's not so much about leverage. It has to do with controlling our destiny, and not allowing somebody else to control our destiny. And that's I stand firm on that principle. And that's my job as the governor of this state, is to make sure that somebody else doesn't determine what our destiny consists of. And that's what's going on right now, without having some ability to make sure that we can advance a project ourselves with other partners, if that's the case. If somebody drops away, that nobody can stop and block us from doing that. I just don't think that's unreasonable. Questions?
Governor, lawmakers have expressed some surprise about contents of your proposal. What makes you confident that there's enough common ground to make this special session end differently than everything that's described dating back to Jimmy Carter in 1976 and every other attempt?
Well, because we're finally trying something different. To do the same thing over and over again with the same result, and that's what we've been doing, is that we've been letting the decision be somebody else all this time. So we're doing it a different approach. I think we need to buy a seat at the table, absolutely, to drive this project. Number one, that's the TransCanada issue. And number two, I think when they see the details of what we're talking about, I asked them to look at it from a standpoint of what has not worked in the past, and also from the standpoint as they struggle, as they have on the budgetary issues. Our biggest get well card is this project. So why would we not improve our chances of having this project built?
What do you see as the biggest obstacles with legislators?
I can't speak on what their obstacles are. They can speak for themselves quite well, and they do quite often. So I don't know what their particular obstacles are. I think there's some concern that if we rock the boat, that will damage our relationship with the industry. I guess my response is that I'm not trying to buy love. I'm trying to sell gas. And we know there's plenty of opportunity in the marketplace for that. So having just come back from Japan, there's a tremendous interest. So, our relationship with the producers, I think, are just fine. I talked to them yesterday. I talk to them every week. They understand where my passion is. They understand where my goal is, to make sure that our gas gets to market. So I'm pretty adamant about that. Nat.
Nat Hers with Alaska Specialties. Can you talk about why, one of the things that I've heard people talking about is the risk and that the state has in the project and the amount of money that it's going to cost. You referenced a couple times if the potential for partners to drop out, not continue with the project. It seems like there are already questions about how the state affords a 1/4 stake in this project. Why is it a good idea for the state to potentially get sort of deeper into this project, spend more of our money on it when there's so much sort of uncertainty about it?
Well, the only uncertainty about it is if it's going to happen. The market's going to determine if it's going to happen. The financial markets are going to determine if it's viable. I mean, we just have to get on the field with this project. So, our role as far as and there's a number of ways we could take care of our financial role. Let me just back up. We can't afford not to be in this project because of the value of the resource that we're. I mean, it's like we've discovered we won the lottery ticket and we're trying to finance our cab ride over to pick up the winnings of it. I mean, my goodness, this is absurd to me. In some of, I don't mean to be disrespectful of your question, Nat, but the way we finance our share of it, a couple of ways. One is we can talk to any one of the market folks that we've been dealing with. If we want to take our 25% and sell a portion of our 25%, there's plenty of companies that would be interested in doing that. That's one way to do it. The other, we do it on project financing, not necessarily cash financing. We borrow the money for that. Would be another option. There's a number of ways you can do a number of projects. They bring in more partners, more parties to divide up that cost, and that's certainly an option. We can do that with the off-takers, with the market. So there's a number of ways that we could do that. I just don't, sit back and I look at the prize. The prize is Alaskans will finally benefit from our vast amount of resources of natural gas in so many ways. Lower cost energy, value-added opportunities. We should be making cement north of Fairbanks, but because exporting cement. But because the cost of energy, we don't do that. There's so many things we should be doing in this state, but it's because of our cost of energy is our biggest obstacle, and yet we reinject 8.6 billion cubic feet of gas every day back into the ground. We're just talking about a piece of pipe. So I think sometimes we make it much more complicated than it needs to be. And I think we're back there again, and I have repeatedly said that I will not start over again, and I'm not starting over again. But yes, I'm fixing what I think is the fatal flaw of 138, and that is that there's no disincentive to not do a project. There's no guarantee that we can do a project ourselves, and the gas will be that we don't have to, worry about will the gas be available to the project. I mean, and I'm talking about the gas being sold at the wellhead, go through the pipeline, or sold in the marketplace. It doesn't make any difference to me, but it is our resource. There's no question about it. They have the right. They have the opportunity and obligation to develop that resource. That's the model that we have. So to keep the gas, off the market and out of a project, that's unacceptable to me. Yes, Natalie.
Rachel Walpole with APRN. And how do you think that the natural gas reserve tax will incentivize this? I mean, instead of just poisoning the waters with producers.
If a producer found this objectionable, I'd have to question their motives if they're really going to do a project. It's only a problem if they don't allow the gas to be involved in a project. So it's not a penalty at all, unless they fully intend to not do a project. Then I guess that they could be concerned about it. But I actually have not received a strong outcry from the producers on this, because it's only a problem if they say we aren't going to allow the gas that they control to be used in a project. So that would be an admission to me that they have no intention of doing a project. So let's find that out now, rather than 10 years from now.
Matt Buxton for the Fairbanks Daily News Miner. I believe this October session has been planned for a while. It was sort of one of the benchmarks set forward under Parnell's administration. Where are the elements that we're supposed to be talking? I think it was property taxes, the pill, a few other things, gas offtakes that were supposed to be decided by now. Where are those?
Well, that's a good point. I guess that is my point. Where are those? No, those have not been. We were supposed to have gas balancing was supposed to be done. We wanted whatever the tax stability package was going to be. What the fiscal certainty package? What was that going to be? We don't have that. Where's the dispute resolution provision of the contract? Where's the expansion for third parties provision? Upstream field costs. How the CO2 is handled. The governance issues, marketing issues. There's a number of issues that have not. My commitment to the legislature was to bring them a package, And that's what was done under the Stranded Gas Development Act. By the time that package was put together, it wasn't well received. And I'm not going to do this piecemeal. In other words, you give one piece at a time, and then every piece we give up, typically it appears to be on our side of the column, we have that much fewer pieces to negotiate with. So we need to put the whole, negotiate the whole package, and that was the deal from day one, negotiate the whole deal. So, and because one of the things on the fiscal certainty piece is that we would need to change our constitution to do that. And I said, I will not put before the legislature, a proposal to change the constitution until we know what we're going to get, until we know what the package looks like, rather than just say change the constitution and we'll go to another decision gate. And so that's really been the real challenge for me is getting out the and I've given I've had a lot of discussions with the producers on time frames and timelines, and I want to see this by this date, and it just hasn't gotten done. So, yeah.
And then,
Matt, go ahead.
And then on the gas reserve tax, I mean, what format is it going to look like? Is this the same as the 2006 one, or as the one that your chief of staff put together when he was a legislator? Yeah,
we won't know that until we actually see it. But my intention is really to look at it as the assurance that the gas becomes available to the project. And I believe that is different. And this is not to be, trying to be punitive or scare somebody away. If someone says we don't have the appetite to be in this project, or this project only returns 16% return, and we have another project that returns 19% around the world, we're going to step away. That's fine. But you can't keep our project from us from continuing our project. So it's different in that regard. It only would become effective or a problem if they said the gas which they control will not be part of this project.
And how much of a role would the revenue from gas reserve tax play into the fiscal crisis now? I mean, does that begin to balance this $3.5–4 billion deficit?
I don't think so. I don't think any producer has said they aren't going to put the gas into the project. So I don't think that would tie in at this point. I mean, it certainly is a possibility, but not anything I have in mind at this point. Yeah.
There was a ballot measure on the reserves tax question in 2006. It lost like 65-35. Have you guys polled on this? Do you have a sense of where the public is, and how do you expect the legislature, which is sort of the elected body of the people, to go for it when that was the public attitude towards this last time?
Some would say if that had passed in 2006, we wouldn't be talking about a gas pipeline today. But this isn't about extracting revenue from the gas today, as that was. This is talking about consequences if you refuse to allow us to develop our resources. That's a significant difference from what was in 2006. So this isn't any sort of a punishment of re-injecting the gas for all these years. There's been some benefit. We could have taken a lot of gas many years ago. Some of it certainly has been valuable for pressure in the field. I certainly understand that. Not all of it. No, we certainly could have taken some in the past.
Liz Raines with KTVA. How much is the tax, and when could we see that bill?
When it's ready, it'll be when it's out. It'll be as soon as it's out. We're trying to do it as soon as we can, and as soon as it's out, we'll get it to you.
Can I just follow up and ask? I mean, is the way you're kind of envisioning this? Do you see it as being so much pressure that actually it would just convince the oil companies that they have to be part of this project, and most likely the state would never actually see anyone paying the reserves tax, because it's like they have a choice between the reserves tax and participating in the project?
Well, and again, they don't have to participate in the project. They just can't keep the gas out of the project that they control. Yeah. I'm not saying they have to stay in the project. I'm not saying you've got to build a gas pipeline. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying you can't block our ability to monetize our resource. That's all this is about.
But is that the major hurdle that we're facing right now? Is producers threatening to pull out? I mean, why? How? I guess the question is, how does this gas reserves tax get us further towards an actual pipeline?
Because we know that there's an end game that works for us. We know that the gas will finally be monetized as we continue down this process and continue to put hundreds of millions of dollars into this project with no assurance that it's ever going to have a chance of being completed, that's a significant difference. So there's an end game result that we control. We control our destiny, and not somebody else controlling that.
Is there a feeling now that there's anybody that, or companies that are looking to block this project? I mean, is this sort of thing that this gas reserve tax is intended to avoid? Is it a real possibility at this point?
The producers have had many opportunities to sell gas at the wellhead in the past to a project and have declined. So that's something I don't want to be in a situation that we're ever there again. That someone says to them, "I want to buy gas at the wellhead," and they say, "No, we're not ready to sell gas."
Governor, we have to take questions.
That's just
on
not
the
acceptable. So and I do want to clarify. When I met with leadership, right in this room, right at this table, I said very clearly, the companies want fiscal certainty. Alaska needs project certainty. We absolutely need project certainty. I'm working on something for project certainty. I was hopeful that the terms I was asking for and that with the AKLNG would have come out, that would have provided that. It's called the withdrawal agreement. There was no withdrawal agreement. This is in place of the withdrawal agreement. So I waited because I kept waiting for these terms to come out. We seem to, we see the PILT came out. We see the ones but the ones that we get something out of, I was not seeing that. So I've been very vocal, and I thought clear that Alaska needs project certainty. So I know it's a new concept somewhat because we've always been focused on fiscal certainty, but I can't face Alaskans with the high cost of energy, with the deficit we're in. It did impact a bit the Shania Summer, doing the dividend check the other day, the 7th grader from Palmer, and I look at that and think, we're responsible for her generation. We're responsible for her future, and yet we're not monetizing. We don't have a process in place where I can look her in the eye in her 7th grade class and say, I guarantee you we can get this gas monetized. And that, to me, is what this is all about. It's all about making sure Alaska controls its own destiny. This is not anti-oil, this is pro-Alaska.
Governor, we have to take questions on the phone.
Operator, first question.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to ask a question over the phone, press 1-4.
Any questions, operator?
Our first question comes from the line of James Brooks. Please go ahead.
Governor, you had mentioned that we'll know it when we see it, this gas tax idea. What's your role in crafting this then? I mean, isn't it coming from you?
It's coming from, but it's a real process that goes through with the Department of Law, Department of Revenue. There's quite a process to make it. What I may have in mind may not be may need some further legal review. So we want to make sure what comes out has been fully vetted around the departments to have that input before it comes out.
Next question, operator.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, for a question, it's 1-4.
We have time for
There are no further questions.
one more question in here.
So you mentioned the impact of oil prices on the ability of companies to invest in capital projects of this scale. How confident are you that the producers will be willing to invest what it takes to accomplish this now?
I don't have I have no reason to question or doubt that they would step up, but I can't control when we're competing with 8 other projects for one company how we're going to stack up in that queue. Because clearly, the President CEO Rex Tillerson said they'll pick the one that's best for them, as they should. Maybe it's not us. Well, that doesn't mean we fold our tent and go home. That means maybe it doesn't work for them, but it sure would work for us. Maybe the rate of return isn't quite enough for them, but maybe it certainly is for us, because our rate of return has a whole lot more to do with what's good for Alaska than necessarily how much money we make off of a piece of pipe. So, that's, I don't have any reason to question them, other than history has not proven that they that this may not be their first choice. I don't have the luxury of knowing what goes on in their boardrooms, nor should I. But I know what goes on in this room. I know what goes on in this state, and that's who I represent.
What about rumors of Exxon pulling out of the project?
I'm sorry?
What about rumors of Exxon pulling out of the project?
I've even heard the rumors of Exxon pulling out of the project. I talked to him yesterday. I spoke to him yesterday, and they seem fine. I guess that's my point. When we're afraid that something's going to fall apart because someone's going to pull out of the project, that's only a problem unless we have the opportunity to make sure that gas that they control is available for a project going to market. See, I can't live with worrying about waking up every day as somebody getting nervous about us or somebody doing this or that. They're going to get nervous about lots of different things, and maybe some will pull out of the project. That certainly is a possibility. That happens. Right now, we're very fortunate to have who we have in the project, but it can be challenging also with the very same company all in the same project. So that's why we need to have something that basically assures us as Alaskans that our resources are not going to stay in the ground because somebody's pulled out of the project.
You said there hasn't been outcry over the gas reserves tax. We reached out to the 3 producers yesterday. They've told us they can't comment until they see the bill.
And I think that's fair. I think that's appropriate. I don't want to speak on their behalf, but I did speak with each of them yesterday, and I don't want to necessarily. I'm certainly not going to speak on their behalf, but I certainly have reached out to them and explained my reason. And it's no surprise to any of them because I've been talking about this from about a week after I came into office. That Alaska needs project certainty, and that's what this is about: is making sure Alaska has a project that we can take to the market.
When should people expect to see the bill?
When can they?
Yeah.
Just right after it's done. I know there's drafts that'll be circulating here shortly and over the weekend, and as soon as it's out, I'll make sure everybody gets a copy.
Many legislators have said they were kind of blindsided by the gas reserves tax. Why not mention it on Monday when you met with members of the legislature?
I sat right at this table and I talked about fiscal certainty. I talked about project certainty. I said I'm working on something on project certainty, and I was really hoping at that point that I'd get a phone call that the negotiating team had provided for me the certainty that I needed out of those negotiations. It didn't happen, and so I need to go with some. I need to create our own project certainty. So I had nothing on the table to hand to them at that point. I went as far as I was comfortable going to say I'm working on something on project certainty. This is about project certainty.
Governor, well past the final question. So thanks, guys.
Thanks very much. We'll see you in Juneau.
How long do you think it'll be? Should I couch surf or look for?
It won't be longer than 30 days.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.